All right, thank you for staying with us. The burden of drug abuse is a public health concern across Nigeria today. Cases of drug abuse continue to rise despite the existing drug laws, policies and strategies for prevention. According to the United Nations Office on Drug and Crimes, 14.4% of Nigerians are presently engaged in drug abuse, most of them youth. This is an alarming trend, and according to the UNODC, Nigeria has one of the highest drug prevalence in West Africa. The festive season is here, and it is another time to put the issue on the spotlight. Joining me is the Director General, Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministry, KADAM, Dr. Dokun Adedeji. Good morning. Compliments of the season.
Thank you very much. I wish you the same.
Right. Now, speaking about this period, it's a time where people want to indulge. When you talk about indulge in all sorts, because they feel it's a time to relax, just have fun with family, friends, and all of it. Go to various sports, have fun. And in the process, some persons are introduced to, abuse of substance, one thing or the other. Some, just to feel high and all of that and feel good. And now we are looking at, there is the need to continue to talk about the abuse of drug. But let's look at your concerns, first of all, for this period.
Yeah, I quite agree with you totally that this season there should be a special something advocacy talking about the necessity for people to stay off drugs and then be moderate in what they do. I agree with you entirely, but I will add that looking at what we are in Nigeria today, the situation we're in, this should be an almost everyday affair, in the sense that whether there is, people will find a need to celebrate something, but this is a collective season, a season for general celebration, so I agree with you. But I think Nigeria has come to a point in which we should take this drug issue very seriously, and instead of this tokenistic attitude toward it, World Drugs Day, seasons, hey, we are in a lot of trouble than we think.
Perhaps you need to paint us a picture of the kind of trouble that you're talking about that we are in.
Oh, okay. You just quoted something that UNODC, a survey made by UNODC that was in 2017, 2018, and then was published in 2019. And that figure spoke to 14.4 then, but I can guarantee you there is much more than that at this point, but we can't do an annual survey. So let me just go to that. The global prevalence rate of drug use in a particular year between ages 15 to 64 was 5.6 at that time. Nigeria was 14.4, which speaks to almost triple of global prevalence. If you also look at the individuals, they say 1 in 20 people have used drugs. In Nigeria, it's 1 to 7. Out of every substance user, 1 is a female.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. And if you then look at the age rate preponderance of use, you find that it's the highest rate is between 25 and 39, which is the productive age of any economy. And then if you then begin to look at how it is in Nigeria, the availability and the easy access that people have to it and the concussions that people make, and the fact that today you can find it anywhere. You can find any drug anywhere. And so it begins to frighten me. And what frightens me the more from field experience is going to the drug joints, is you find that the age of use is coming down. I was in a city, I won't mention the city, a few weeks ago to come and go talk to some people who wanted to get involved. I met with a 10-year-old that even took a picture with him, a 10-year-old, and who said to me that he and his friends were close to 200 scattered all over that city, and they do drugs. They're primary school kids. And so when we sit down and then we look at the season and then we look at adults who drink beer, who do that, what about those kids? And then you begin to find, look, there is no primary school you go into that's upper level that you don't find somebody who's done it before. I've seen schools, they'll call us to say, look, they find some guys in class, they sleep or they're overactive. I mean, it's so important that we, as a nation, we get serious.
That points out to one thing, availability. How it has become readily available to anybody.
Anyone.
How did we get to this point? Nigeria used to be a transit point, and suddenly we became a drug-using nation.
I'm glad that you raised that. There was a meeting we had in Abuja many years ago, must have been close to 20 years ago. I remember telling the meeting, particularly the Director General then of NDLEA, I won't mention his name, that we should not delude ourselves into believing or thinking that we're a transit nation then. Because any country that transits, that are allowed to transit, they'll be used at a domestic level, because not everything that comes in will go out. And I said to them at that time that we're already a user nation. Until 2013, Nigeria did not accept that we're a user nation. But can I tell you, from even what NDLEA currently has found, they have discovered in Nigeria alone between 27 to 30 laboratories manufacturing methamphetamine. So even as I'm talking about a user nation, we are transiting, we're already transited into a manufacturing domain. And so that should worry us.
Wow.
I think last week or thereabout, they found some foreigners, I think they were Mexicans.
Yes.
They were brought in as consultants. You see, you don't need a big space to manufacture these things, and you just need a few things. Today, what they say, yes, which is methyl crystal. And that's and they call it ice on the street. It looks like brittle ice like this, and you find it everywhere. And you know, when you find it, I can tell you there's hardly any area of Lagos where you not find this thing, no matter where. High level, all these big deals, big estates, we're deceiving ourselves. And so that's why I think as a nation, we should work with this current NDLA and wake up, which brings me to what I say to the media. You know, it's one thing to call people like me to come and talk about it. But I think a time has come in which there must be a continuous feature of this, that even the media can go and do their own investigations and then come without putting faces to it, and then come and present it on a regular basis. If we don't do this and get people to be aware, particularly parents and schools, we're going to be in more serious trouble in another 5 years.
5?
I can guarantee you.
Wow, that's really close.
Very close.
Now, let's look at, perhaps people do not understand the dangers with regards to abusing substance. Because when you look at that age, perhaps some would say the age of curiosity, people want to understand themselves, and so they touch on one thing, just indulge in different things to really understand who they are. But there are some things you might want to stay off because of its impact. Talk to us from that window.
If you look at that, you cannot put that responsibility on those young people. They know nothing, they don't know, they see their friends use it. I think what we should begin to look at in Nigeria today is what is the parental involvement in the development of our children. And then we then go also into another tripod of the leg of the school, and then the leg of the religious institutions. If we all don't work in that tripod, in that triangle, we will, particularly the parents, we will be in trouble.
Charity begins at home.
At home. You see, because today, because of economic reason, one reason or the other, parents are no more parents. They are not there. They don't relate to their kids. And I said to parents, you can't become your kid's friend when the kid is a teenager. It's already too late. Where were you when they were growing up? By that time, they have formed some habits that you may not even be able to understand or appreciate or know about. And so talking to them about it becomes, what's this woman talking about? What's this man talking about? Where were you when I was growing up? And even some parents indulge.
Right.
So when parents indulge, you think the kids don't know? Of course they know, because from what they have heard and what they have seen, they can understand some of the signs they see, and when a man comes in and beats up his wife, or with the slightest thing is angry and is aggressive, there must be a reason for it, not necessarily because he was frustrated at work, but because something must have happened. Most men close, they don't come home first. They go sit down in a bar, they say, oh, I don't want to get home because of one thing or the other, and they drink.
Indulge.
You know, alcohol is everywhere, socially acceptable. And you know, the WHO is still struggling with that at those points to say, should we consider alcohol as a dangerous drug and then so classify it, but they leave it, everybody is struggling because of the economic opportunities that come with producing and all the rest. So until the world or a nation comes to grip and say, look, this is what we're going to do for our people, and this is how much level of awareness we create for our people to understand. If those young people look at the TV, look at the artists, the musicians, what do they glamorize? They glamorize these things. And then you see, they say, drink responsibly, and then they sponsor the major tournaments. And then so that gives a room for some of these things to fester. And we need to, in England, for instance, you can't advertise cola drinks, fizzy drinks in the evening or when the kids are still awake. Why can't you look at things like that? If you go to model parks, you see sachet drinks. I had a time that they said they were going to ban it. Ban it how? The moment you begin to ban things like that, you allow it to fester on the ground, and then you let people begin to look for it, and it becomes expensive. So we need generally many times to look at the dynamics of how these things work and then plug it. Don't just come out and ban, don't just come out and ban, and then punitive measures, all those things encourage use.
Right. I want us to still touch on, you know, the tripod that you described: parents, school, and then the religious leaders and all of this. Let's understand their role. Especially, well, this is a period where parents will be at home with their children. People will go to their, you know, various religious centers because they are also at home at this period. And then we look at schools. Yes, they might be on holiday. Are we talking about, you know, inculcating this as part of our curriculum, where we teach children about substance abuse and its impact?
Yes, I think we need to look at the different roles and responsibilities of this segment.
Right.
But the primary area of concern where children are molded is the home. And then today there's so much dissonance between what we say and what we do. And children, they hear what you do more than what you say.
Right.
And so the thing is, we must begin. It comes essentially to value system of a nation, and is built upon the foundation on the home. If those things are destroyed, then we have a problem. So parents,
the schools can't correct it. The religious can't correct it.
Not exactly. They will try.
Right.
But they really can't. You see, the Bible says something, if I can say this: what with the righteous, the foundation is be destroyed.
Yes.
The thing is, do you know parents who go to schools to beat up teachers or to harass the school institutions to say, why will you do this to why will you discipline my child? So what happens in those schools, because they are highbrow schools, they pay so much money, every child is a king, even teachers cannot discipline those kids, and then they can't even report them. The teacher will lose his job. These are things we know. So, and what, again, even if you get a very good school where they conform and they do that, the child spends longer time at home than in school. They come on holiday, they've been at home for a long time, then they go to school for a few weeks, and then they come home and they stay. What they bring from home is what they exhibit in school. The school can try to curb it, but when the children see that they can depend on their parents to alter the course of punishment or reproach, then the school is handicapped. We need also to look at how do we register schools. Does anybody inspect the schools? Do we check them? Do we do an underground check of how the teachers feel, how the students feel, what goes on in the school, what goes on in the boarding room, and all those things? Those are essential things to look at. If you then come to the religious, the thing is, all these people need training. Specialized training, how to recognize what you need to do. You see, you go to church today, somebody brings his child, the child is going to say, let's do deliverance. And they will let us pray. pray about what you don't understand, you are just praying in blindness. So the thing is, and that is what the NGL is trying to do now, raise the advocacy level to the point that all these people know their responsibilities. Before, people like us used to go to schools to go and talk. But after, from evidence-based structure, they found that some of this glamorized, you bring somebody who has been in drugs before and then to come and talk about his experience. The children look at it, and then some of them say, oh,
curious.
They get curious about it. You mention some of this, they go and look for it. And not only that, we don't stay there. It becomes a sensation to them. We just talk and we walk away. And then we raise all kinds of antenna in them. But one thing we have now found from every evidence-based approach is that the people who stay with them more, the teachers, the guidance counselors, the principal, are supposed to be trained. They stay with them every day so they can continue to reinforce the message that they themselves know, training the trainer, and then talk to these students. And then they can incorporate to the syllabus some of those, maybe in terms of drama, in terms of every time you talk about it, you raise issues about it. That will be more long-standing and makes more sense than just doing it. So until we look at those three areas and then work towards how do you solidify knowledge and awareness, and also people can talk freely about it, and then people can take away the issue of stigma. If we take that away, a lot of people will come forward seeking for help. And unfortunately, there are not too many areas in which they can look for help. So that's also a kind of dilemma that as a nation we should deal with. Right.
Now, let's look at the aspect. You talked about the fact that the people who are found to abuse substances the more are within the productive age, which economically has its, impact. Talk to us from that window.
I'm sure you heard about a month ago when the NYC raised the alarm that about over 50% of coppers use drugs.
Wow.
And so you should then be frightened by the fact that these people will be posted to different areas of engagement. What happens when they get there? They get more people involved, or some of them get worse. One thing that I also want people to understand, there's a difference between an addict and a user. A user is somebody probably like the copper, he uses it and he thinks it makes him feel good and he can still walk. But an addict gets to a point in which he can no more function
without it.
And also his life goes downward or his circumstances are altered. So the thing that we must do is the economics. Look, we must get to a point that NDLE, for instance, under General, wants to institute that we can do tests. But the question is, if organizations are permitted to do tests to what purpose? Are you going to use the test to help, to provide help for the person, or are you going to send the person away, or you stigmatize and begin to wait for a time in which you can find a way to send them away? That is the dilemma that everybody is, and also people also talk about human rights. That why will you just subject me to test, don't tell me why you want to do test. We need to marry all this and domesticate the things that work for our nation. I'm not saying you should just grab people and test, but if we are going to test them, are we going to offer them
what
help?
Are we going to do with the data?
Absolutely. Are we in the offices, do they have a drug policy, a workplace policy that helps the staff to know that if this happens, you can do this, you can do this, you can do that? If we don't have all those things as structures, it will be difficult.
You think offices should have that?
I think offices should have workplace drug policy. They should. I mean, in offices, they say no smoking. Why then can we not say you can't drink in the office, or if you have an issue, you can see a counselor, you can see the doctor in the clinic, you can see a clinical psychologist, and then we offer you help. And if the person needs to take time off to go do rehab, you give him the time off. But you see, people will say, you're encouraging them. But the thing is, if you don't do those things as strategies, eventually your workplace will be infested and then people will go off work. And then we need to confront the issue that we have is a reality. So why are we running away from it?
We're shying away from it.
Absolutely. Why don't we sit down and drop a policy, find a way in which we help, and then we move forward from that?
Can we have a robust policy that will really tackle this matter at the root?
Well, of course, there are policies. About 2 weeks ago, exactly 2 weeks ago, the 6th of December, the drug policy was launched in Abuja. And so there are policies. The thing is, it may be huge. I think it's about 62, 63 pages or something. But the thing is, can we take out the salient as it pertains to relevant organization and then work on it and implement? And you see, one of the things that I'm glad that General Mawa is looking at, can we take away the issue of punitive action towards some of these things?
Why?
Why punish? When you punish a user, that is double jeopardy. The person is already a victim of nobody wants to wake up and be a user. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to begin to use drugs, I want to destroy my life. No. It's an insidious thing. It's something that happens surreptitiously, maybe through parties, through your friends, through activities that you are not even aware of. If you go to a party and then they put in your cake, in your cookies, and then you take it and then you say, this tastes something. And then you begin to look for friends that's how it starts. Sometimes people are bullied to do it and then they find it enjoyable. Some people take it and say, what is this? I don't like it. They stop. But some people continue. So we must find the avenue of making sure that people do not get involved. And then the opportunity to deter instead of punishing. Because when people know it's punishment, they will hide the fact until you catch them. If you don't catch them, then it begins to fester in your organization or school. So it needs a lot of pragmatic approach.
Right. Now, there's been, according to reports, there's been, this year alone, we've had about 9,000 arrests made for drug peddlers. I wonder if there has been prosecutions, because there are also talks about, let's nip it at the bud from perhaps those who are selling, peddling, those who are the drug barons.
You know, there's a difference between the baron and the guy who sells in street corners or who carries across the airport or seaport. You see, the thing that people do not understand, it's an intricate web, the drug situation. The baron may not be known even to the, you see, there are levels. The man that carries it and they say, carry it to China, I'll give you something. He probably doesn't know who the next person is. He just knows the person who gives it to him. He doesn't know who gave it to that person to give to him. The guy just look for mules who will carry it, and then he finds somebody accessible. The thing, the baron may be sitting in a big office. He may even be head of a state, of a country, as he was in Panama. General Noriega, he was head of the nation, and he was involved in drug trade. So the thing is, and who will be the people that will be caught? People that will be caught in suburbs, will be caught on the street, and then they'll be punished. Peddlers should be arrested and prosecuted. And maybe in the process, we may be able to link up to the next person, or whatever. But it's an intricate web. And so the thing is, we must find a way to get the barons. Getting the baron may be difficult, but we sure can through intelligence. And that is the way I think we can begin to work. If we're punishing, look, maybe that's why we're not punishing the user, but if we're punishing, we can punish the peddlers and then graduate. What kind of punishment do you give to a peddler? I remember Jeremiah did something. There was a woman that was caught, a pregnant woman. And so he said the woman can be released because she was only selling or something for reason. But again, she was caught. And then she'll be prosecuted. Those are the kind of leeway should be given. And then get judges themselves, you know. Also, judges should look at the statute and not in terms of criminality, but in terms of there's something being worked on at this moment, how they can dispense justice fairly, but not too severely, depending on the range of criminality.
All right, let's just perhaps give a final word to those who might want to indulge this period of festivity, who might want to just feel happy, feel good, feel high, but then do not understand the severity of what they are indulging in.
I would say, you see, feeling happy does not come from drugs or stimulants or things like that. Feeling happy is something that comes innately. You're satisfied with it. So yes, we know things are difficult. But one thing we must forget is when you want to feel high, want to feel happy, remember it's like a Mexican proverb. You carry your load and then you say, let me sit down and drink, and then you sleep off. When you wake up, the load is there, you pick it up again. So the thing to do, we must find ways of coping with the circumstances in which we are in, which is hard for everyone. But we must have the coping mechanism, which is also part of the things that must be taught to young people, coping mechanism, and then so that you can, being happy, I don't have to go drink to be happy. Watch TV, get yourself involved in something productive, get friends together, and then maybe also now because of the age of where with COVID we're in, you don't want to gather. Stay in your home, stay with your family, and then have good time with your family.
And that's be a fine place to leave the conversation. Dr. Dokun Adedeji, thank you so much for your time on the program. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.